fierce political battle unfolding in the 1st Congressional District of Massachusetts.
Right now, we've developed considerable momentum on the healthcare front here in the House of Representatives.
Longtime incumbent Richard Neal now fighting to hold on to his seat against challenger Jeromie Whalen.
You're one internet search away from figuring out why, as District 1, we're in this mess.
It's 4 decades of legislative leverage.
70% of the American people disagree with the economic direction that the country has taken.
Versus a local school teacher campaigning for generational change.
We need real people in real positions of power.
For the first time, coming face to face on the 22 News debate stage. From your local election headquarters, this is the Massachusetts 1st Congressional Democratic Primary Debate.
From the 22 News Broadcast Center here in Chicopee, the stakes are high, both here at home and in Washington, as voters decide who they want representing Western Massachusetts in Congress. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your moderator, Patrick Berry. With the September 1st primary just days away, the choice is now in the voters' hands. The Focus Massachusetts 1st Congressional District and the candidates vying for the Democratic nomination. Today, we are joined by incumbent Congressman Richard Neal and his challenger, Jeromie Whalen. We thank you both for taking the time to debate here at the 22 News studios. Our goal is to provide a fair and informative discussion of the candidates' policy differences with equal time provided to each candidate, and here are the rules. Each candidate will have 60 seconds at the start and another 60 seconds at the end for their opening and closing remarks. And throughout this debate, I will be alternating questions between the candidates, and they will each have 60 seconds for their answers. I may or may not ask a follow-up question, but if I do, then that candidate will have 30 seconds to respond. Candidates will also have 60 seconds for closing statements, as I mentioned earlier. We will be reminding our candidates of those time limits using a traffic light system on their cameras here in the studio. When their time is up, the lights will turn red. The order of opening statements, questions, and closing statements was determined by a drawing prior to this debate. Based on that drawing, Congressman Neal will go first for opening statements. Congressman, you have 60 seconds.
First, Patrick, let me say thanks to you and to Channel 22 for offering this opportunity to discuss a range of issues in front of the people of Central and Western Massachusetts. This is a challenging and dangerous time, given the policies of Donald Trump, whether it relates to his cutbacks to health care, his cutbacks on immigration, or the changes he's attempted to make on nutrition programs. I have delivered for the people of Western and Central Massachusetts. 2 million people had their pension saved with the Butch-Lewis Act. 100,000 people have had their Social Security benefits restored because of my efforts. The most important climate change legislation in the history of America, the Inflation Reduction Act, and $412 billion worth of tax credits. Couple with that with the CARES Act, couple that with the rescue package, and look at the achievements we've had across this district. Billions of dollars have come back to the people of Western and Central Massachusetts. There has not been a life in Central or Western Massachusetts that's not had a positive impact because of the efforts that I've made. I've been here, I have fought Trump, and I intend to continue to deliver for the people of Western and Central Massachusetts.
Thank you, Congressman. Mr. Whalen, you have 60 seconds for your opening statements.
Yeah, well, thank you, Pat. Thank you to wwlp, and thank you to the current congressman who has generously donated 30 minutes of his time to us. My name is Jeromie Whalen. I'm 39 years old. I grew up in Belchertown. I live in South Hadley with my beautiful wife, and my parents retired up into Otis in the Berkshires. And for the last 11 years, I've been a high school teacher. And I had to walk into the classroom in 2016 after Trump was elected and stare my students in the face and tell them that it was going to be all right. This isn't normal. Flash forward to 2024, and I was in that same predicament. But this time, I was met with shrugs of shoulders because we've normalized all of this. And what have we normalized? We've normalized a do-nothing Congress and the corporatization of this entire American system. And who's the poster child of that? It's our current absentee congressman, who is percentage-wise one of the top recipients of corporate money in all of Congress. We deserve better. We deserve a new generation of leadership that is free from that corporate greed. Please consider voting for me on September 1st.
Thank you, gentlemen. Our first question goes right back to you, Mr. Whalen. At its core, this election presents Democratic voters with a clear choice. Defeating Congressman Neal could mean replacing a potential chairman of the Ways and Means Committee with a freshman member of Congress. Why is that trade-off beneficial to folks here in Western Massachusetts?
I think this is a good time to talk about some myths. We do not bring in more money into the district comparatively The current congressman has gone on tour for the community project funds, also known historically as earmarks. We rank 5th out of 9 for the congressional representation here. We rank below average for those. And also, it's power perceived by tenure. When your son lobbies before the House Ways and Means Committee and receives $4,500 a month, mind you, that is more than the median household income of Springfield, his hometown. That is not the change that we need. He's been there for 37 years, and I'm 39 years old. The time is, for now, the power that we need.
I'm coming right back to you, Mr. Whalen. How are you going to address many of the district's biggest problems that you've identified? It was specifically healthcare costs and the economic pressures that we're facing.
Yeah, I think that healthcare is a great thing to look at. We're looking at 20 to 40% increases in health insurance premiums across the board. That's breaking household budgets. That's breaking municipal budgets. In South Hadley, where I live, the election that happened with Prop 2.5, it led to increases of that. We need a Medicare for all system. I can say that. The current congressman takes hundreds of thousands of dollars from the healthcare lobbyists and pharmaceutical industry. We need solutions now, not putting Band-Aids on the Affordable Care Act.
Thank you very much. Mr. Neal, you've represented the district for 37 years, and your seniority could again put you at the center of tax, healthcare, trade, and Social Security policy. Mr. Whalen argues that after nearly 4 decades, many of the district's biggest problems, such as healthcare costs and economic pressures, remain unresolved. Why should voters choose your experience and seniority over change?
Thanks, Patrick. And so what's noteworthy about the charges that my opponent has made is that it's highlighted by the Berkshire Eagle editorial, which says he's light, if not empty, on substance and very light on facts. I have delivered billions of dollars for this congressional district. Maybe he has not heard of the rescue package. Maybe he has not heard of the CARES package. Maybe he has not heard of West-East Rail. How about North-South Rail that I was able to successfully oversee? These are, as the Berkshire Eagle pointed out, platitudes. I negotiated USMCA. I led the charge to make sure those pensions were restored for our Teamsters unions and other laborers unions across this country. 100,000 people, as I noted earlier, had their Social Security benefits restored, and the most important climate legislation in the history of America was offered during my tenure as chairman. Again, the Berkshire Eagle was correct. Light on facts, empty on promises, big on platitudes.
Congressman, we're coming right back to you with question number 2. The Democrats broadly agree that healthcare costs are too high, but they disagree on how to fix the problem. So my question is, you've supported expanding the Affordable Care Act, but you've never embraced Medicare for All, which Mr. Whalen has. What is wrong with Mr. Whalen's approach?
He has never explained it to begin with. I'm for Medicare for everybody who wants it. That's the consideration. In addition to which, I helped to write the Affordable Care Act. 22 million Americans have health insurance because of the work that I've done. Who led the charge against the cuts that are coming to our area hospitals? Between Bay State Medical, UMass Memorial, Berkshire Medical Center, and, by the way, Patrick, I succeeded in reopening the North Adams Regional Hospital. I've had a long history of supporting expanded health care for all members of the American family, including being a champion of Medicaid. That's a very important consideration because the details that have been offered by the opposition here, again, have been light on substance and much on platitude.
I'd like to butt in right there.
So hang on. So let me follow up with you, Mr. Neal. How do we get Medicare for all across the finish line?
I think what you're going to do is you're going to offer a series of choices. You're going to give people, the Teamsters, the labor unions, others who like the health care that they have, an opportunity to keep it, while simultaneously continuing to do what we did with the Affordable Care Act, expanding Medicaid across the country. So Patrick, a statistic that's really compelling. Tonight, every child in Massachusetts has health insurance. 95% of the adults in Massachusetts, they have health insurance. Those are facts. Those are not platitudes. I have participated in these debates. Barack Obama sought my advice when we talked expanding the medical opportunities under the Affordable Care Act.
Thank you very much,
like
Mr. Whalen. Let me ask you your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do support Medicare for all and a single-payer health care system. Why replace the current system that we have?
Well, the current congressman says I'm light on facts, but he's heavy on corporate money to maintain the status quo. You take hundreds of thousands of dollars from the likes of United Health and Pfizer, and of course you're going to be against the single payer system. But the facts are there. A recent Yale study said that a Medicare for All system would have 114,000 lives saved a year and $1 trillion. So why aren't you for that? Why aren't you for that? It's because of the corporate money that you take. And what do you do with that corporate money? You spend it at the Chatham Bars Inn, and over the last 15 years, you almost spent $1 million on the Cape rather than
Mr. Whalen, you're not answering the question.
Opposed to the constituents
You're not answering the question. How are you going to get that to happen?
So you do this by combining the idea of what's going on the state level. So Mass Cares is a perfect example. We have a model right now. Romney Care came to Obamacare, connect the municipal, state, and federal level. Right now, the idea of Medicare for All is preposterous to the current congressman, but you need to come together. The Jayapal bill is right there. Sign on, co-sign on the first day.
Very good. All right, we're going to shift gears a little bit to Social Security. Right back to you, Mr. Whalen. Social Security does provide income for millions of Americans, but policymakers broadly acknowledge the program faces long-term financial challenges, and the debate continues over whether the solution should involve higher taxes, benefit changes, or both. You oppose any increase in the Social Security retirement age. Once a person's annual income reaches $184,500, Social Security is no longer taken out of their paycheck. So would you eliminate that $184,000 cap or raise it?
Absolutely. Raise the cap, eliminate the cap. We need to have a situation where a person at 184 isn't at 184 million. And that gets into the larger picture. The things that the current congressman champions, for instance, the Social Security system, it's looking insolvent by 2032. And for my students and myself, the same opportunities aren't afforded. So we're going bankrupt. The power in Congress is the purse strings, and we're seeing frivolous spending. We need to rein in that spending, and that comes into Social Security system. So up the cap, remove the cap. Let's talk about that. Surtaxes on the ultra wealthy. We have a model for that. It's called the Fair Share Amendment. 4% surtax on incomes $1 million and above. Let's extrapolate that onto the national stage. Let's put it at, say, 2% at 50 million or 100 million. I promise you, the trillionaires and millionaires and billionaires of the world aren't going to miss that.
Thank you very much. Congressman Neal, to you, you've said that wealthy Americans should contribute more to strengthen Social Security. Similarly to the question from Mr. Whalen, would you eliminate that $184,000 cap? Raise it, and if you suggest raising it, where should that cap be?
I would raise the cap and eliminate the cap, to be candid with you. Patrick, I know something about Social Security. I was raised on survivor benefits by my aunt and my grandmother. I know the guarantee, because my parents died early in life, that Social Security has provided in terms of generational obligation. There's been no greater champion of Social Security in the United States Congress than I have been. I noted earlier, 100,000 people, probably including you as a teacher, now are going to derive a Social Security benefit because of my work. I have stood up to Social Security. I opposed George W. Bush's plan to privatize Social Security, and I opposed Donald Trump's plan to privatize Social Security. Social Security is a generational guarantee and obligation that we have to each other, and most importantly, it's an earned benefit. And I'm not sure Mr. Whalen would know this, but we are already raising the age of maximum or optimal benefit by 1 month every year.
Very good.
Congressman Dr. Whalen, by the way.
We're coming back to you shortly, Mr. Whalen, or Dr. Whalen. Congressman, this question is for you. About a third of Democrats now say they identify as Democratic Socialists. And based on primary elections in a lot of safe Democratic seats, the number of Democratic Socialists in Congress is set to grow next session. So you do not identify as a Democratic Socialist, but do you think this surge on the left of the party is a good thing for the Democrats? And if you're reelected, how do you plan to work with the Democratic Socialist members in the next Congress?
I think the arithmetic is profound, and you can't get past it. The idea here is to build a bigger tent, and sometimes that will mean competing voices. But we need to win a majority in the House of Representatives for the purpose of standing up to Donald Trump. Clearly, there are varied opinions, but there has always been various opinions in the Democratic Party for as long as I can remember. My sense is that that means that of the 10 that are going to be declared, or maybe 12 socialists next January, that they are part of the argument for the arithmetic, and most importantly in this environment, standing up to Donald Trump. I've always expressed an interest as I've traveled the country and raised $5 million for Democratic candidates across this country to win, including the Black Caucus, including the Hispanic Caucus, and headlined a fundraising effort for the Equality PAC, and delighted that the Human Rights Committee is supporting my candidacy once again.
Thank you very much. Dr. Whalen, the question is for you. You identify as a progressive, though not necessarily as a democratic socialist. In what ways would you say that you align with the democratic socialists, and which ways are you different?
Yeah, I want to first say that raising $5 million for the DNC is broke right now. And where's that money going?
It's not the DNC, Pat, it's the DCCC. That's a mistake.
Okay, let him answer his question, please.
So, where does that money go? Well, it goes to you in VIP box seats at Washington baseball games. And so, to think about raising money, you take that and you spend it on hospitality. I have friends in the DSA. I am not a DSA member. I'm not endorsed by the DSA. But what do we have in common? It's that we can't afford things right now. And that is why a lot of those individuals are going to be voting for me in the Democratic primary, because they know I'm going to get things done. They know I'm for the working and middle class and not the corporations. You can't be against or advocating on behalf of individuals with high utility rates when you take money from Eversource. You can't advocate for affordable housing or rent control when you're taking money from Blackstone, the world's largest landlord. You can't say Medicare for all when you're taking money from United Health and Pfizer.
Thank you very much. Dr. Whalen, we're coming back to you. Polls consistently show that the cost of living remains one of voters' biggest concerns. Housing costs have risen significantly in many communities, while families continue to face challenges from grocery, healthcare, utility, and energy costs. Your agenda includes Medicare for all, major climate investment, and expanded federal housing programs. What would those programs cost, and how would you pay for them?
Absolutely. We have to look at these programs. You pay for them by surtaxes on the ultra wealthy. We, like I said, have a model for that. It's the Fair Share Amendment right here. But it's stopping the bleeding immediately. What do I mean by that? The Springfield City Council overwhelmingly passed a non-binding resolution for rent control. I appreciate rent control, and I want to enact those measures. I want to expand on affordable housing as well. Also, restore Medicare and Medicaid cuts and SNAP benefits. 40% of households across Massachusetts are some shade of food insecure. My friend Liz Ogilvie calls it food poverty. I sat with her at Gardening the Community right in Springfield. The current congressman did not go see Liz Ogilvie or anybody within that community. You have to be on the ground and you have to be hearing the stories, and that's what we incorporate into our campaign and platform.
So, Dr. Whalen, which of those programs that we mentioned should come first if Congress cannot do all of them?
I think that we should work on all of them at the same time. The first day in this seat, I'm going to co-sponsor a series of legislation called the New Deal 2.0, because we can accomplish a lot at the same time. And we can connect the dots in the municipal, state, and federal level. To think about you need to prioritize things, you can do many things at once, and we have to. Steve Bannon calls it flooding the zone. We need to be proactive. Democrats are always on their heels. We need solutions, and we need a lot of them. So we have to come together, develop those relationships that I have on the municipal, state, and federal level to get the job done.
Thank you very much. Congressman Neal, it's very easy to blame the president here. However, he still has 2 more years in office, and you have been a member of the Ways and Means for quite some time now. So we would like to hear from you. What are you going to do in the next 2 years to lower costs for families in Western Massachusetts that you haven't been able to do?
So first, I'm the only member of Congress that was sued by Donald Trump, and I sued him for his taxes and won at the Supreme Court. Here's the other argument here that was completely missed a moment ago when you talked about prices. Ending the war in Iran is the most important thing we can do to bring down prices. Not a word during the course of this campaign from our opponent about tariffs. Not a word. Ending the war is the most important consideration that we have, and standing up to Donald Trump with a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives would go a long way. I go grocery shopping on my own. A gallon of milk, $4.50. When you look at what we're paying, $3.99 for a dozen eggs, $4 for a gallon of gasoline, it's the cost of shipping that goes back and forth. Again, the platitudes of what is going to be done here by Mr. Whalen. We don't hear any specifics. Months have gone by. No word about Ukraine, no word about the Middle East, none of it. It's just sentences that declare this is what he's for and what he's against. I've been specific, and on the Ways and Means Committee, I have challenged Donald Trump time and again.
Thank you very much.
I have talked about these.
His time is up. Congressman, we are coming back to you. This is something Dr. Whalen brought up earlier. One of the central disagreements in this race concerns money and influence in politics. In 2019, the first year you took the gavel as chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, you ranked #1 of the 435 members of the House of Representatives for receiving corporate PAC money and raised more than $12 million between 2010 and 2014. Why shouldn't voters question whether that money buys access or influence?
As long as you balance that argument against the AFL-CIO endorsement and the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars I've raised from working people across the country. In addition to which, that reference that my opponent made about going to the ballpark, that was an AFL-CIO sponsored event. They were all there. Thank goodness that I have their help. What about the credit unions? What about the efforts I've made, as I said earlier, to raise money for the Black Caucus? That doesn't benefit me. Raising money for the Equality Caucus, raising money for the Hispanic Caucus. I've made sure that Democratic candidates building a majority have had the necessary financing for their campaigns, and I want to continue to be able to do that. And it's evidenced by the fact that I have succeeded in recruiting and helping Democratic candidates, even in this cycle, be bona fide in their efforts to win these House seats. And let me point this out. The only violation of campaign funds now has been that one has come from my opponent, who was cited by the Boston Globe for illegally setting up a political PAC with a brewer in Berkshire County. And by the way, maybe he could explain
very quickly, Congressman,
did you come up with the idea of having a super PAC become involved in this campaign on your behalf?
Congressman, we don't have time for Dr. Whalen to answer that question, but let me come back. I want to come back to you and ask you, Congressman, did campaign contributions play any role in any of your positions in policy?
No, they don't. And I point that out gladly, and I have done that in the past. I have stood up for the people of Massachusetts time and again. Here's the other point that I would make. They buy in or they accept my agenda. I don't buy in and accept their agenda. So let's take this back to the idea, why is there a super PAC involved in this campaign? I don't understand it for the life of me. I don't have a super PAC. And let me say this, Patrick, as well. There should be no super PAC in this campaign.
A lot of time.
You are out of time. If you'd like to answer that in your closing statements, Dr. Whalen, you may.
Absolutely.
I want to switch gears a little bit to
I want to say this, though, Patrick. We've talked a lot.
I'm trying to stay on track. You've got time in your closing statements. I want to switch gears a little bit to artificial intelligence, where it is... I'm sorry. Let me come back to you, Mr. Whalen.
Okay.
I flipped the wrong page. Can you identify evidence that contributions have actually changed his policies?
I think that when you look at Medicare for All and your failure to say that, that is absolutely something that influences. Also, surprise medical billing. You axed that measure, then you had tens of thousands of dollars coming in after on behalf of the corporations that wanted to see it axed. It's hard to connect the dots in politics, but it doesn't take a lot to actually do it. You also talked about how I haven't talked about a lot of these issues. I actually have at candidates forums, dozens of them in fact, that you don't show up at. 44 organizations having a candidates forum in Springfield and you don't show up. You haven't had an in-person town hall since 2017. You don't actually show up, and it doesn't take a Latino bus field trip to be out in the community. We've been there for over a year, and we've developed something amazing, and the community understands that. They see through it.
So, Dr. Whalen, I do want to ask you, I want to stress it again, what specific policy do you feel has been influenced by money in politics with Congressman Neal?
I think a big one is his stance in the genocide taking place in Gaza. And when we talk about that, he takes tens of thousands of dollars of AIPAC money. Don't get me wrong, you have to separate the Netanyahu regime from the Israeli people and the Jewish communities here, just as you have to separate the Trump administration from the American people. But to be on the right side of history on this, I think that it clouds his judgment by taking AIPAC money.
This has certainly been a spirited conversation, gentlemen. I want to thank you both so very much, but our time has run short, so we do need to shift to closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute, 60 seconds, and as I mentioned earlier, the order was decided in a drawing prior to this conversation. Dr. Whalen, you are first with closing statements. You have 60 seconds.
Well, thank you, everybody. This has been a spirited debate. I think the choice is clear here. The current congressman over the last 3 weeks has spent upwards of $750,000 on this race. And I think that it shows our work, our dedication, everything that we've poured our hearts and souls in meeting people, that's all coming to fruition. And it's also saying no to that corporate money. So I just want to give a shout out to everybody that has been involved. This has been an incredible experience. On September 1st, win or lose, I'm back in the classroom for my students and my community. That's the reason why I got into this. That's the reason why I'm looking out for you, to protect the working and middle class. Medicare for all, abolish ICE, the Green New Deal, surtaxes on the ultra wealthy, things that I can say because I'm free from that corporate money, and things that my opponent can't. So once again, thank you. My name is Jeromie Whalen, and I would love to have your vote on September 1st.
Congressman Neal, you have 60 seconds for your closing remarks.
Most importantly, surprise billing passed and it became law, and I'm very proud of it. Secondly, as I pointed out at the beginning in my opening statement, this district and every family has benefited from my work in Congress. Whether it was those 100,000 people who have received a Social Security benefit restored because of WEP, those millions of people who have received their benefits because of my work on pensions, that was in the Oval Office when Joe Biden talked to me. How about the achievement I've had in Northern Ireland, where peace, after 800 years of disagreement and disobedience and crime and killings took place? Bill Clinton sought me out on that. On the nuclear disarmament bill, Barack Obama called me to find out what I thought of his nuclear agreement that had been reached with John Kerry and himself. That's where we should have been. In addition, I'm going to close by saying this. I have been an effective member of Congress. That's not in doubt. Time and again, I have been there when the people of this district needed me. I show up, I deliver for this district, and I have stood up to Donald Trump. Next Tuesday, or whether you did early voting or whether you're doing mail-in voting, I hope once again you'll take a look and cast a vote for Congressman Richard Neal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick.
Congressman, Dr. Whalen, thank you both for such I love your passion, so I appreciate you both joining me here.
Gotta be passionate, gotta fight back.
Here today. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our debate. We want to thank both of them again for taking the time to join us here at 22 News today. We hope today's debate will help you, the voters at home, make an informed decision at the polls in Massachusetts during the primary next Tuesday, September 1st. From all of us here at 22 News, thank you so very much for watching.